Yin Mei. I am an artist living in New York. I'm also part of the exhibition White Box organized, named Exodus 2, Chinese Art Revealed, East Village in 1980s. My artwork joined this exhibitions is the installation of my letters. Those letters are written in the 1980s and 70s, some of them 70s. In the 70s, I was in China. I grew up in China and living in there throughout my young age. And during this Chinese Cultural Revolution, I becoming a dancer, and dancing is part of my life. I'm saying so is that when I was young and seeing the world is very chaotic. My parents are intellects. We're living in the institute, in their compound, but that is a madhouse. So in my young age, and I know the world is so big, that is so unpredictable, but only dance, only in dance, that I could feel that piece of security. So dance becoming my favorite. And so since I was in elementary school, I was in the little propaganda group in the elementary school and middle school. So then I becoming a dancer, actually professional dancer. And then I went to join, auditioned for the Chinese Liberation Army in Wuhan. So in the Air Force, there is a big dance and songs company. So I becoming a professional dancer with the Liberation Army. So by then I was 14. So I starting to write to my parents when I left home. So from there, it was my habit. I write every week, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, telling them everything what is happening with me, in me. And that habit lasted for 20 years, all the way until I came to America. And so I accumulated, my parents accumulated my letter for thousands, maybe, of them, a big box of letters. So this time, my exhibition in the White Box is I choose some of the letters and I did the installation. But in the end, I have to say that I only read a few, but most of the time I was picking up those letters by looking at the pretty envelope or the beautiful stamps, which are striking to very attractive to my eye. So because there are so many of them, so I just picking them in that way. And that really, really made me confirmed and also deeply realized language, words, when the function of those languages gone, and especially with the matter of me, those letters written in those Cultural Revolution language, so much big words which I would never imagine, or people in this country would never really understand what I'm talking about. And even the people, they read Chinese, they would not understand what I was really referring to. All those incredible big words, and also something I care so much, is so secretive, but really it is not that way at all. And so the language itself, when it passed the purpose, the function of communication, and it moving on to a different era, different time, then you realize it is not meaningful anymore. And what is left to me when looking at those letters? It is only left is art. And it's another whole world of art that I can do with those letters. That was something so powerful to me to learn, to realize that. Though I very much be on that track for quite a long time. I've been really interested in Chinese language, especially I studied I Ching, and I Ching is a whole book of the entire world, the entire phenomena of the world, but really not written too much about written through the language. It is only this symbol. There is a symbol, like only one straight line and one broken line, and those lines and depict the phenomena of the world and the situation you are in. So it is almost like the words. The words is used to interpreting it, but actually those drawings is the representing the nature phenomena. Those are the meaning of really lasting forever, and it's not really words itself. But I do discover Chinese language, Chinese words are very fascinating because they are pictographic. So I love this the way that I studied I Ching, because the teacher, or that I realize myself, I have this ability of sense and sense the meaning of the situation. I think that is also very much relating to art. Art sometimes is the language is getting pale, and the image that is appear very strong and powerful. And that is the way that I see through language is the way you're getting into another world of image, of insight, of intuition. And of course, has to say that coming to this country had really changed me tremendously. In a way, I was very fascinated by the West. During Cultural Revolution, everything is stopped, was forbidden to read books, and anything that was beyond or before the Cultural Revolution, including the dance, they were all considered poison to the revolutionaries' mind. So we were read Chairman Mao's Red Book, Chairman Mao's poetries. Those are, to me at the time, the poetries speaking so much to me, and that images stayed with me, even though many years later I came to this country, and I was open my hands, embracing the Western ideology, Western thought, but at sometimes I think life knocked me down all the time, and I started to questioning myself, and I always go back to Chairman Mao's poetry. That felt is something that I felt I'm connected. I suddenly can feel the connection that I am not that little person anymore, that I could tapping into this big vastful of energy, and at the moment, and I do not have to worry about myself that much. So it is very interesting, paradoxical about it, because I run away from China as fast, as far as I can. But in the end, or there's always coming around, that I found when this ideology, or what I believe, I'm starting to lost the confidence, and I coming back to where I feel very familiar with. And yes, of course, I grew up in China. I'm a dancer. I danced my entire life of these two beautiful ballet, revolutionary ballet. One is called The White-Haired Girl. Another one is The Red Detachment of Woman. Those are the two ballets the entire nation can see for more than 10 years. And I remember every move, every part of the music and the story. And it was, I'm believing in it. That is what it is. I believing in the ideology of fairness through communist, because we bring liberation to all the people around, and that is the great ideology we believe in, because we felt we have that responsibility as a young person growing up. We're gonna liberation people. But towards the end of the revolution, and I like everybody, and we realize what we believe in is not something that we can grasp, and then we are not address that what is the individual inside, what is our own expression, what is our own mind. So that part was neglected, or was not being encouraged. So I left the country when I was 23, and in Hong Kong, I starting to see a lot of different kind of things. Almost sometimes it's too much. So and this capitalist, sometimes it can be very, very overwhelming, especially in Hong Kong. There was so many people. It was beyond my way of handling my situation as well. Only you starting to earn more money. That is what I had never done before. In China, we all earn very little money, but we were not worried about where we live, and the housing, and the health insurance, and we not worry about anything. So everything is from the government. So, and we are all earning the same amount of money, and never was a problem at all. And but coming into this country, I starting to realize people always asking me, "What do you think?" So I came in 85. Yeah, first 84 through invitation from American Dance Festival. So I was at the American Dance Festival as the international choreographer, and that is the time I was falling in love with American, and falling in love with the way the dancing American has to offer. So I went back to Hong Kong. I decided I have to come to New York to pursue my new found love, which is called modern dance. So next year I came through Asian Cultural Council. I got a full scholarship to come to American, study American contemporary dance. So I went to NYU. I lived in LaGuardia Place, down the village, and started my new life. So at NYU, it is changing my mind, and changing me, I guess, more than my mind and my heart as well. At NYU, I have a set program for 3 years. In there, I studied Homer's Iliad Odyssey, and I studied Greek tragedies for 2 years, and then studied the New Testament and the Old Testament, and Aristotle, Plato, Socrates. That is my first year, second year, third year education. But during that time, especially the first and second year, those classics are my focus. And then later on, I studied Dante, Chaucer, and all the way went to, we were required to study Freud and Kafka, Marx, yeah, and the world religion. So those are 3 years of my my course. And I remember I was fascinated. You know, I have a difficulty to understand a lot of things, but I recorded every single class. So that way that I could really restudy while I was not able to grasp all during the class. But for 3 years, studying at NYU, studying with the great books, it was, I guess, my foundation to really trying to understand why contemporary dance and art happening in New York, in the West. And for me, I'm not just interested in dancing somebody's style, because in my entire life, I'm dancing somebody's work, and I exactly has to be like them. So that, I guess, that solid education had made me starting to understand another way of looking at the world. So at the same time, I have to mention I have a beautiful, beautiful professor. His name is John Carroll. He's my Greek tragedies professor. And every class, he will draw the timeline on the table, on the blackboard. And he will write about the Greek tragedies on top, the years who created what. And then on the bottom, he will write another big timeline talking about in Israel, in the Middle East, in the those are a group of shepherds. They living on the mountain in the night. They lying under the star, and they're telling stories. That's what Old Testament come about. So he would compare those time, the Greek tragedies and Homer's Iliad, Odyssey, and at that time, what was the shepherds doing in Israel, in Hebrew, yeah. And then I started to very fascinated, wanted to understand what the Chinese people are doing at the time. So I went online on my own notebook. I would draw a third line to see what is the Chinese period according to this. So I discovered, of course, is Lao Tzu and Confucius. And I was very fascinated. So at the time, I don't know. I came to this country. I came over the Cultural Revolution. I never studied Confucianism. I was no Lao Tzu. And when I first heard Confucian, it was during the time that when Chairman Mao's best comrade, Lin Biao, he escaped. Yeah, he was shot down by Chairman Mao's army. That because he wanted to, he tried to assassinating Chairman Mao. So then the whole movement started, and then we have a movement called Pilin Pikong, condemning Lin Biao, condemning Confucius. So then I started to really know a little bit. In my mind, I was not interested in that. I was 16 years old. I just wanted to know something that is more than the politics. I would tell you what I was reading at the time. But at the time, during the revolution, I only know, okay, Confucius is a bad person. He is like Chairman Mao's enemy, yeah, that they try to going against the communist ideology, and he's a bad guy. But during the night, at that time, I was 16, in a dance company, I was reading all those classical Western literature. I read black and white, black and red, of French novels, and I also read quite a lot of Russian Tolstoy and Dostoevsky's work. And we compete in the company. We have in a dance company, we have 50 young dancers. We are all in the same age. So a group of us love to read Western literature. We only, the book was running underground. So we study during the day, but in the night, we have to make a turn. This book is in your room, in your possession for one night. So you have to set up the whole night to read what you can read, and the next day is belong to somebody else. So the book has already been torn. Like some book has no top, some book has no bottom, but that was some kind of a self-education, which also as a foundation for me to always have an eye of looking for something that is a liberation, or something that was not restrained, that you can be free, like the Western world. That is what set in my mind. So coming to American is inevitable. It's inevitable because it was set in my mind that I have to come to here to learn dance and to learn how to dance and to learn create dance, and that dance is belong to me. So my first work, actually, during my time at NYU, my first piece was Dante's Inferno. I created a solo and danced to a Japanese composer with that piece, and that was I was at NYU, and we performed, and I got the best review from the New York Times. Jennifer Dunning wrote an amazing piece of my work, and also saying this is a tour de force in performance and in choreography. She said, describing that you can see there's a deep yearning from some kind of roots, and that roots is from the Asian tradition. And when I read that New York Times review, I was very questioning. I said, no, this is not from Asian tradition. That is all about me. And I created that work in my living room. While I was traveling, I sit in a chair and I choreographed. It is nothing about traditional dance, Chinese dance. There's nothing about Chineseness in it. But then I starting to realize there is some kind of thing that is in me, in my skin, that I cannot escape, that I have to face, including a lot of chaos and pain. But that is my past. And I know now I have a confidence to actually moving forward. It's okay that I go through some hard time, just like everybody. Perhaps life gonna knocking down one way or another when you were young, or when you're middle age, when you were older. So for me was some kind of a mark in me, and I guess I came out of it that I was equipped with some kind of resilience and imagination. It becoming a big part of me. So that's why I go back. I studied I Ching for many years. And I went back to study calligraphy, and especially everything I read and about the calligraphy, or even back, actually it's the language. It was attracting to me. And I went back to study the Chinese oracle bones, which I have an entire track of history of studying research, and I created an entire evening of dance, was inspired by the oracle bones. And you know, oracle bone is the ancient old writing carved on the bones and being intensely burned, and then when the shamans were interpreting the meaning or the insight from the ancestor to guiding you in this life. So all of those things, I think they are physical, they are action, but they are also having those lines, and they also have meanings, and the meaning that you cannot read, but you have to go through some kind of translation and interpretation through your body, through your inner mind of connection. So all of that has set me into this vastful of in this vastful of world. I realized two things. There's a world of purpose, logic, people can see. Yes, this is the world that we're living in, and but at the same time, parallel, there is another world, and that world is when you close your eyes, it becoming very vivid and powerful, and it's just as powerful or even more than this world that you are living in. So I constantly can traveling this two world back and forth, and when I need it, I go down or go up. And when I am facing the world, I'm sort of like sometimes can be spaced out. People would say me, because I guess that I love that in between, and I'm always in between. I'm a dancer, choreographer, and university professor, teaching dance, teaching creativity. But I'm also totally away from dance. I'm interested in visual. I'm interested in visual arts. I'm interested in creating visual arts. Creating dance. I use my body, and I use the thing that I can use. What you make dance, you using. What do you make art? You use brushes and inks, and those are materials. And I found those materials, and with me, with my body, can creating this endless, amazing mark. The mark of what I was doing. The art, the dance, and at the same time, they marking my feeling, my emotion, my insight. They are just very interesting to me. There are so many things I would like to talk about. Maybe I am over the time. I would like to be detailed, telling you what I've been doing for this 30-some years, but maybe indeed that I would say, Lao Tzu would say, 天行健，君子自强不息. Maybe that is very too big. That there is inside of me. It is not that I am so amazing because I never stop pursuing. I think to me, it's just becoming interesting. So everything I put my hands on, I'm starting to creating something, or not even thinking about creating, and the things being revealed to me and attract my attention. So I starting to do more things. So that is perhaps brought me more and more interested in what I'm doing, and you can call it pursuing, or it's just leading me to coming to this place right now. I felt like that I am very comfortable that in between the world, dance and visual arts, and in between the world, East and West, philosophy, ideology, and I was go in a way for capitalist, but now after the coronavirus, I'm starting to really have a second thought. There's so much that I wanted to go into it, but maybe this is a little bit too much. Let's wait for next time. Thank you very much, and I will see you soon.